And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at micro robots. Now, if the box of micro robots looks familiar to some people, that's because if you look at the robot here in the front of it, it looks very similar to the robots from a game called Ricochet Robot. Ricochet Robot is a game that came out over a decade ago, in which players had 4 robots of different colors, and you were using logic to figure out how to get them to a certain space on the board. The robots would move as far as you could in one direction and kind of bounce off walls till they got to the target, and you would have to sometimes move one robot to a spot so that another robot would bounce off that robot and get to where you wanted it to go. It could be a very difficult game, but it was a game that invited a lot of people to play because you could all gather around the table and figure out the fewest moves to get the robot to where you wanted him to go. This is the exact same idea. It's a different game on how you move the robots, but it's the same thing, and it's in a smaller box, hence the name Micro Robots. And in this game, you are trying to figure out how to get a robot to a target space faster than everyone else. Here's how it plays. Players are going to put together the board, which is made of 4 sections. There's 2 sides to each section. It doesn't matter what section you use. So you can use, the brown boards or the gray boards. You just have to use all 4 that are the same. You can mix and match these and put them together. If you notice, there's different spaces on here in different colors. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of pink, of red, green, yellow, blue, etc. So on your turn, to start the game, you're going to roll 2 dice. So here I rolled a 1 blue. And so the starting chip goes on the 1 blue, and then the game's ready to go. So on a turn, you're going to roll this, so this says yellow 3. And so we're going to put a victory point chip on yellow 3, and then players are going to quickly, as they can, figure out how to get to yellow 3 from the starting chip here. Now, when you move, you're going to be moving the robot. So here's a robot that you'll use to actually make the move. But you can move to the same color, or you can move to the same number in a straight line. So the robot here is on a blue 1. The robot can move to this white 1, or it can move to the blue 4. It can move to the green 1 or the red 1. Once it moves to the red 1 here, for example, it could go back to the green 1. It could go to the red 2. It can go to this red 3 here. And so you are trying to figure out how to get it to this spot here. So players are going to be thinking over the move as quickly as they can. So let's see if we can figure a quick move out here. We'll do that. Okay, so here's how I would do it. I would shout out the number 4, and then I would go 1 from blue to blue, 2 from blue to blue, 3 from 3 to 3, 4 from 3 to 3. So I've done it. So if you do it in the exact number of moves you said, you get this chip, which is a victory point. The starting chip now goes here. We roll another 1. If you happen to roll the number you're on, then that's where you are. So here I get the green 5. And then we shout the number, which in this case is 2. 1, 2. 3 to 3, green to green. And then we go again. And we rolled a blue 6, which is here. And then we have to get to that one. So how will we get to that one? This one's a little trickier. 1, 2. So this is one way that you could do it. There might be a faster way, but you could go from green to green, green to red, red to red, red to red, 6 to 6. All right, and that's how the game's played. Now you can make the game harder. So for example, you could play intermediate one. So yellow 5 means you have to pass through the yellow 5 to get to the blue 6. So I might say, okay, I'm going to move green from green to green, and I just have to get down to this one here at some way or some fashion or some form. And then once I'm here, going to the victory point chip. And that makes the game a little bit more difficult. This robot itself also is the same shape as the robots in Ricochet Robot, so you can stick this robot in there and basically have a 5th robot. The first person to get 5 victory point chips in this game is the winner, or if all the victory point chips have been given out, whoever has the most is the winner of the game. Now I want to start out by saying I like the game. I think the game is fine, but I think there's a few small problems with the game. Now, first of all, the game itself is cool. The fact that there's 2 sides to the boards and you can mix and match and put these boards any way you want really gives you a lot of variety. The pieces are nice. The victory point chips are clear, allowing you to see through them. The robot, while not necessary, is nice to have as you show the movement of the pieces. The movement itself is pretty easy to explain. Go to the same color, go to the same number, and it offers a decent challenge, usually. As you notice, that second example I showed, you did it in 2 moves. And that's where I think the game runs into its problem, right? Because you do that, everyone shouts 2 at the same time. So I think, if possible, if it's 3 or less moves, you should just say, okay, if someone shouts out 3 or less, we redo it until we get to a harder one. Because a lot of times, because of the size of the board, which is small, and because the robots are around, it's pretty simple. In fact, I always play with the advanced variant where you have to go through one spot to get to the other spot. And even that occasionally can be even sometimes 2 moves if you go through that spot and then right over to the other one. That doesn't happen often, but it still could be kind of simple occasionally. When they're more difficult, when they make everybody go, that's where the game gets good. This game is in no ways as difficult as Ricochet Robots. But that's not a bad thing. I don't say that to criticize this game. For me, I'd rather play Ricochet Robots because I want the bigger challenge. For these, I can figure them out usually pretty quickly. Like, oh, wow, so that's 3, 4. Because you can work backwards pretty easily. You can say, okay, I'm going to a green 3, which means I can hit that from any 3 in that row or from any green in that row. Okay, then which of those match up with that starting point? Oh, wow, that one matches up with the starting point. I can do it in 2 moves. And you can kind of work backwards, and that's good. It produces good thinking. I don't want to call this a kid's game because it's not, although kids can play it. But it's a game where the thinking here is cool, but it's not that many moves ahead. Ricochet Robots, you were having to say, okay, I need to move this robot to this spot and then bounce this one off it. That's more difficult. So if you thought Ricochet Robot was a cool idea but too difficult, then this is right up your alley. If you liked it and you want to be able to play this in family settings, group settings, kid settings, just almost as a filler, this one also works. Also, it takes a very small footprint. This is not a big box. I just think that one thing where sometimes it goes and everyone's shouting out 2 at the same time, you're not sure who shouted out first. And I also recommend you play where you roll the dice and everyone starts from there for the victory point chip rather than having to place the victory chip on the board and then saying go. Either way, still a cool little game. And hey, you can make Ricochet Robots more interesting with a 5th robot. I don't think many people are going to buy it for that, but if you're looking for a little logic robot game, this one will fit the bill. Micro Robots. Dice Tower Judgment approved.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!